Alright, quick update on KNC. So we're having a slight bounce, and we actually talked about the possibility of us coming up to the EMA ribbons before we did come down to our target. I think we last made our video on this a couple of days ago. We were somewhere around about this 150 to 160 level, and we've got our price target down here. Nothing has changed in that regards. I still do think it is likely we could have one more flush out, one more very brutal flush out for the altcoin markets before the altcoins do recover against both the US dollar and their Bitcoin valuation pairs. So let's jump into the video. Let's talk about where KNC would need to break above if we did want to break bullish, and obviously if we never jump above those trend lines, if we never jump above these support boxes, then the trend will be your friend until the end and we will still be bearish. So let's start off with what we've got going on with these daily EMA ribbons. Now, I talked about this a couple of days ago. We said, do not be surprised considering how fast we've dropped from these EMA ribbons. I said I see this all the time where, you have the EMA ribbon flip and then you come up, you retest the EMAs after they've had a trend shift, and then you move back down. And it's the same on the flip side as well. For example, you can see, we came all the way up on these EMA ribbons, we back tested them, we went all the way up, and you keep on back testing them, especially after you've had like a bullish flip. For example, you can see here we had a bullish flip, we broke above them, and then even after this big move we came all the way back to test them. And here as well you can see big breakdown, we had a bounce, we tried to come and test it, we didn't necessarily do it perfectly. Once again here you can see we flip the EMA ribbons, we have a run up, you come back, you back test them. Normally when you have a trend shift on these EMA ribbons, it isn't like outlandish to expect that we would be coming back up to the EMA ribbon before we do curve over and kind of roll back down the hill. So I'm going to mark this a specific color. Let's mark it light blue. It kind of makes it difficult when we've got this green box here. So let's see if we can get it something else, something more visible. I don't want to mark it orange because that's what I mark the fibs. You can see these two orange lines are your double 618s. What about pink? Would this be very, we're gonna have to mark it something. I'm gonna make a decision now. Let's just mark it black. So this black box that I'm going to be talking about, these are the areas where we need to get above. Now, if we come over to the weekly time frame, you can actually see we can move this down a step, and if I actually mark another specific box where we could be getting trapped in over on the weekly EMA ribbons, you can also see we could be getting stuck round about this region here. And what do you know, we've already come up into these EMA ribbons. You can see we've come up, we've tested them, and we've moved down on the weekly time frame. Looking at this on the daily once again, you can see these are your two big areas of resistance. And what do you know, we've wicked into the weekly. Coming into the weekly, you can see we had a wick into it, and at the bottom of this box is where your weekly EMA ribbons are. And what do you know, this is where we have our candle body closes like absolute clockwork. Happens every time. But could we still be coming up to your EMA ribbons? I definitely do think we could. So I would really not be getting out of bed until, well, 246 needs to break. You can also see about 285 would need to break. This is assuming that it takes another couple of days or so and that we don't, run all the way up like this. But you can also see if we did, have a, brutal run up, you wouldn't be out of the blue until you break above $3.13. So there's a lot of overhead resistance coming up for KNC, and at this moment in time I would definitely advise caution with trading the altcoins. I've looked at most of the altcoin BTC pairs and they're really all getting slaughtered. Do we have a KNC pair? If not, I will see if we can pull one up. KNC BTC. Let's see how Kyber network is performing against Bitcoin before we do roll back over to our KNC USD valuation. And you can see, I mean, we can zoom out a bit because it's been, this is a super choppy chart, very choppy, but it does kind of seem like we're in, at least in my opinion, it seems like we're in this kind of phase before we do roll back down. This is a super choppy chart, like I said, but looking at this on the daily, it kind of seems like we're already coming back down. This could be something like a AB, equals CD, and we could come down to, you know, a much more brutal price target on this. I still do think, I've been saying this in all my altcoin videos, I think altcoins are going to get slaughtered against Bitcoin in the short term, and I'll show you why in just a moment. But you can also see, you know, we're in some type of bear flag pattern over on KNC. It does look pretty brutal in my opinion. KNC against the US dollar as well. You know, we're not out of the woods until we do take out these levels, as to say. So quickly, let's start wrapping up this video. You can see we kind of had a little bunny hill up to the moving averages. This is why I haven't, you know, spoken too much about what we're seeing on the squeeze bomb, where we are losing bearish momentum. A lot of the time I'll try and find an example of this, but you can see, you know, sometimes this doesn't, you know, do it any justice, because we actually broke out like a couple of weeks later. But a lot of the times where you have these bunny hills in momentum, especially when you've got big momentum volume or big momentum candles on the squeeze bomb like this, you can see a lot of the time these little bunny hills back up to your EMA ribbons, they're normally just a rejection, and this is normally a time for example, bears to take a breather, and then for them to come back in and be even more brutal than before and have, you know, a big move to the downside. And I do think something like that could be playing out for Kyber Network. Coming over to the 4-hourly time frame, you can actually see we're seeing something slightly different. The 4-hourly EMAs are trying to break bullish. Bear in mind, it does look like we are emming out into these EMA ribbons once again, and this hasn't been a successful retest. I always say this, in my opinion, a successful retest is where you break above the invalidation point after you flip them. So for example, there's 3 steps to this. You break out, that's number 1, you back test, that's number 2, and then you break out of the rejection point, which is this zone right here, that is number 3. So you can see this would line up something like this. You know, number 1, you break out, you find a top, you back test the EMAs, and this is the most important. Until you break out of that invalidation point, you are absolutely not bullish, and you do not have a confirmed flip. Even if we start kind of like doing something like this and the EMA ribbons flip bullish, it doesn't mean that it's a confirmed breakout. So be very cautious if you are trading these shorter term time frame flips on the 4-hour. Until we take out this invalidation point, I would not say that, you know, we are safe, we are out the blue. So I'm going to mark this red in the short term as an area of resistance that we would need to focus on. This would be coming in around $2.35. So with all that being said, you know, lower time frames, bulls are losing momentum as we are coming back down into the EMA ribbons. If we do look quickly just at the 4-hourly EMAs, it's fairly obvious. I mean, we were able to sell as these EMAs flipped at $5 on KNC. This is where I made my last trade on KNC. We got in, I can't remember where it was one of these retests. It was either this retest, it was either one of these retests, maybe it was a retest on the daily. Oh no, it was the daily. I remember now looking at this on the daily. Let's see if we come back. So on the daily time frame, we got in as this came down into the EMA ribbon. So we hopped in at basically exactly $3. We looked at the 4-hourly uptrend. We realized that it perfectly defined, the 4-hourly EMA ribbons perfectly defined the uptrend. Then we flipped bearish on the 4-hourly EMA ribbons. We broke down, we came back, back tested them, and it was a wrap. So we sold at $5 on the EMA flip, and since then, you know, we've been doing nothing but getting rejected, and now we're kind of just lollygagging and deciding, is this a fake out? Are we going to, you know, capitulate back down lower? Because I'm telling you, if we capitulate at this moment in time, this would be, you know, like some ugly type of bear flag scenario where we would be, I don't want to draw it out because, you know, this is one of the least important things in my opinion playing out right now, and the price target of this would be in the minuses, so it wouldn't even be valid anyway. But as you can see, we've outlined a plethora of resistance above KNC's head, and at this moment in time, I do think we are heading down. Now, we could be seeing a breakout. I will be updating you if I do think that KNC is about to break bullish. For example, if I see that on the 4-hour, we've had, you know, a confirmed flip, we do something like this, I will update you and let you know. On the same accord, if I don't update you until, you know, tomorrow, And, you know, I'm going to be doing these altcoin videos, you know, day in, day out. But if I don't make a video on this until tomorrow, it probably simply means the trend is your friend until the end. And until we do see that flip above the EMA ribbons, then, you know, there's not going to be a lot else to talk about, because we've got so much resistance coming in between $3.13, and we've got a lot of resistance coming in down here at $2.20. So we're definitely not out of the clear. We're not out of the woods, whatever you want to call it. I still do think the general trajectory for Kyber network is to the downside. My personal price target is targeting the lows back down here. You could also still be targeting the lows down here of this accumulation range at $1, because we perfectly back tested this. But here's where my analysis kind of steps out of the KNC chart, and we're going to wrap it up on this. Like I've been saying, I think all the altcoins are pretty much bearish against Bitcoin right now. I think KNC is bearish against Bitcoin. I think this is a dead cat bounce / bearish flag before we do pennant back to the downside. That being said, Kyber network against USD is still bearish. We're in a bearish downtrend. Kyber network against Bitcoin is exceptionally bearish, so it doesn't make sense to me to hold altcoins being included of Kyber network, while it's very obvious that these altcoins are underperforming against Bitcoin. So until this changes, I would be sitting on the sidelines for this. Like I said, I do not mind trading KNC. I love getting in for these trades, and I love making I love taking profits in Bitcoin and making more Bitcoin. Like when we got in at $3 and when we sold at $5, that was a great flip that allowed us to accumulate more Bitcoin. But right now, I'm not seeing any trades that are screaming like here. You know, we were having a very textbook retrace on the daily, and we knew that as the trend was your friend, that after you backtested it and you started to move up, that we were going to keep on moving up. The same thing is on the daily to the downside. If we just test these EMAs and move back down, it's going to be the exact same as what we saw over here. And until we see this trend flip that we saw over here, until we see something like this here, where we, you know, start breaking bullish, in my opinion, there's nothing to get out of bed for. So that's all I've got. If you are looking for time-sensitive updates, when I do notice something very important going on in the altcoin markets, go sign up for the Discord. I will be posting, you know, more announcements. Also follow my Twitter. It's at 618_cowboy. I do post a lot of time-sensitive info over on there. Also, I did just want to highlight, wrapping up the video, the total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin, this is the total 2, is still super bearish. So in my opinion, altcoins are very bearish against Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I still think something like this could play out. I either think we're going to come right down to 22,000 and we're going to get out of here, or I think we could come up to 34, 35, 36, and then come back down to 22 before getting out of here. I do think this is going to take a prolonged period of time to play out. I do think that we're not just going to have one bottom and then we're out of here. You can see in previous cycles we had something like this, where we had this little accumulation range before we did get out of here, and we actually came down once, twice, 3 times before we got out of here. And in previous cycles we actually came down once and twice again, and I'm not going to go through all of the cycles, but you can see one massive macro dip into the bear market lows, big bounce, second capitulation. That was where the lows were done, and that was where we were off to the races. I think something like that is going to be playing out for Bitcoin very soon. With all that being said, altcoins are bearish against Bitcoin in my opinion. KNC is bearish against Bitcoin. KNC is bearish against the US dollar. And until we have some type of macro flip above $3.10, $3.13, nothing's changed. 4 hourly time frame, look for a solid break above $2.35. If we have that, we might be breaking, you know, bullish in the short term. I wouldn't be trading in the short term though. I'm really only focusing on buying Bitcoin while Bitcoin's in this capitulation phase. That is all I've got for my KNC update. Hope you found some value in this. As always, cowboy out, not financial advice. Peace.